and they're bored, after a day at work, I'll just bring out the phone and a quick game of Angry Birds. And as soon as their stop comes up, they can just shut it down and go. It's no problem. So that's the point. It's just to pass the time. It's something fun to pass the time. So I don't see a problem. I mean, is it not Java? I thought all these games, all the Android stuff is Java, which means it really should, in theory, work natively as a Java applet.
Well, I think the fact that it's on the Android platform is the reason why some people in the Linux community are maybe being vocal about where's our Linux version, so to speak. And this was a point I was having a discussion with somebody earlier on. It's great. Yeah, I completely agree that we should have cross-platform software, and that in an ideal world, all software that's released would be cross-platform, and it wouldn't matter what you were running. But if we're going to have a campaign for this new cross-platform world, I certainly don't think Angry Birds would be the software package to be its poster child. Maybe it's because I was playing games in the 90s with the MeeGo, but we've seen this type of genre before in games like Worms and that type of thing, albeit with a different input device. But no, it was really just to get your two opinions. I thought maybe one of you might say, oh yes, it has to come to Linux, and we could have a debate. But I mean, I'm certainly a bit apathetic to Angry Birds and the whole gaming platform anyway. Angry Birds is great for the trying, like Gordon says, between stops, quick flick. But do I really want it on desktop? Well, not really. I've got plenty of other choice to while away a few minutes if I'm waiting for something to download or want to put something up on the blog.
The only thing that I've actually been playing recently is I found something called, I think, Sane Gnome, one of the Gnome game packages. Mm-hmm. And I thought I'd tried a few of them. It was like Sane Gnome. God, that soaks time. It's like, no, quit it. Just another game. But I'll quit it. No, just have another game, then I'll quit it.
Well, in respect of short games and quick, simple ones to play to pass a bit of time, I'm putting the link in the IRC channel now, and we'll have this in the show notes. It's for a game called The Entanglement, which is amazingly addictive, very, very simple, and great to while away a few hours that you can play in your browser. So I'll be linking that in the show notes. I'm hopefully you two have played it already. If you haven't, you're missing out. It's very, very good. So, moving swiftly on, Roy, Gordon, have you? Shall I go back over to Roy for a second? Have you got another title to wow us with?
Well, I was going to make a very quick remark about the video. One of the things, and I already apologize for people who listen to the audio version and don't know what I'm talking about. The thing I just did about 10 minutes ago is basically suspend the video. Because we only record the first 10-15 minutes or so, at least initially, while we still kind of experiment with this thing. And one of the things we hope to do is to spend the first 10-15 minutes actually covering some of the important issues and actually the news. Some of the listeners did suggest that we make the show easier to listen to if you do want to find out what the news is, daily news or weekly news or whatever. And then we put a discussion towards the end. So even though we don't really have a recipe for the show, we don't really have anything laid out in terms of the plan of things we want to cover, we could actually try and ensure we emphasize news at the start and discussions towards the end. No, the reason we did think about doing the first 10 minutes, and that's something somewhere in the middle of the show, put in video, is because we sometimes want to use a web browser to, for example, go to a website of a distribution. We might want to, and hopefully, ideally, we are going to have on the next show perhaps both my face and Tim's face. We did have this before. We could reproduce that on Tuesday, but it didn't work before. We tried to get it to work. But one of the nice things about it, we'll be able to communicate with more than just words. So we can show things. I suppose we can also communicate better among ourselves, because what happens when we do these shows, not only do we not have notes, it's really hard to know what the other person wants to do or wants to say, because we don't see each other as we speak. We don't actually see things like movement of hands or a person preparing to speak, so we have to go past the gap of having no visual cues or anything. So when it comes to news, I was hoping to go through it at the start of the show, and like I said before, I didn't see many Linux news recently. I don't think I've seen lots of open source and free software news recently either. I did see the Free Software Foundation thanking Pamela Jones for the work she did in Grok all these years. That's something I saw today. I've seen quite an interesting discussion, or actually an argument between Fontana, who works for Red Hat, and the FSF. They have an argument over copyright assignment and such things, and that's not really being reported, even though it probably should. When it comes to Linux, there is minor releases and there is everything just Ubuntu. To be honest, it's not that I have an issue with Ubuntu. It's just the type of things you consider to be Ubuntu news or Linux site would deem to be news about Ubuntu. It's things like wallpapers and how's Unity doing, how many bugs does it have. And it's just not newsworthy. It's just really small things.
Well, I can add a bit of a personal opinion onto that, because the other day I downloaded 11.04, the final beta 2, and I don't know if I explained to the listeners before, but my brother-in-law is staying over with us for a few weeks, and he's helping doing odd jobs around the house. And he brought his machine over to get a new distribution put on. He's had Linux Mint on and off. He's had quite a few different distros on there, and he's quite into now the experiencing different Linux distributions and different ways of working. So he's brought his machine over, and I downloaded 11.04 beta 2, and literally I've had about an hour with it. But certainly I'm reading a lot in the press about how horrendously buggy it is, how prone to crashes. I think I saw somebody quote somewhere 5 out of 11 people suffered crashes when they were running it, and also something along them lines. So far from what I've seen, now again, this has only been a few hours here and there that I've had a flick on, it seems pretty nice. It's pretty much stable. I've had a few teething issues with it, but from the outset, it's certainly not the picture that was painted by certain individuals on the net. And I'm looking forward to seeing the release candidate, certainly when that's put out. So I'll probably have a little bit more to put on my site when I give it the proper treatment. But so far, no, I've been impressed, as I usually am with most of the Ubuntu releases. And Gordon, I don't know if you've had a chance to have a look at it.
No, not 11.04 yet. I had 10.10, which was that was Unity on the netbook edition. And that's all right. I mean, it's different. So that's the thing with it's just different. That's the problem. It's different. Well, it's not a problem. It's just that's what a lot of criticism is. It's vastly different from the way that regular GNOME 2 works now. And I've noticed people are sort of feeling they're reacting against it because they feel they're being forced to go with that, and Canonical are saying, well, from 11.04 Unity is going to be the default, and it might work in netbooks. That's where I've tried it, and it's fine on that. It's not exactly very fast, but Ubuntu is not exactly very fast anyway, so how much of that is Ubuntu, how much of that is Unity, I don't know. It's not very flexible.
It's a bit of a difficult thing. I think Ubuntu is just about as fast as any of the major distributions that you might compare. I mean, the other distributions that I saw compared to, especially in Phoronix, was Fedora. Actually, it beats Fedora in some tests. And I cannot think of any distro which he even tried Arch. I mean, Michael was trying Arch and all kinds of benchmarks. He was trying some of those hardcore distros, which you would think would be stripped down a bit. You usually would imagine them just running the command line, but if you want to make comparable assessments, you do probably have to run the comparable stack of both. And when it comes to the kernel levels, eventually, it depends on the type of benchmarks you do. It's basically the same code run, and if you compare the same programs, the same tasks being run on both distributions, you're looking at the wrong tests, because what you probably do want to do is to compare something like GNOME and KDE or LXDE versus something else, because then you actually compare different code bases.
Yeah, I think also to keep in mind, you've also got to think that Ubuntu is sort of aimed at people who they may not necessarily know how to switch Bluetooth daemon on. So Ubuntu does that for them. So it's all these little services and things like that run to make it convenient for people, and that all adds up. And that just goes with the territory of aiming at new users. I mean, I thought it was okay in 10.10. It was not very flexible though. appears to have gotten more flexible in 11.04. The fact that you can actually hide the sidebar now, which you couldn't do in 10.10, and you can resize the icons and things like that.